All right, greetings. Greetings, everyone. Let's see here.
Greetings.
We are actually doing this, and we're going to be going live. We are live on YouTube at this point. And let me do this, do us a favor here. Let me start this recording. And so we are live on YouTube. We will also be doing these live on YouTube. So the reason why we're doing this live on YouTube as well is so that you guys will have the link directly to YouTube to go and review, but only the Masters Roundtable will be on YouTube, not the meeting of the Masters. That won't be on YouTube. All right. So yeah, so hopefully everybody is feeling fine today. Everybody's had a nice week so far and everything. So we talked about a lot on Saturday, and got a lot to unpack and uncover. I've had some calls from a few of you as to I guess trying to fully understand the information. Hopefully you all got the information that I sent, and the packet, with the slides and the what else did I send? Oh, and also the link to the replay. All right. So hopefully you guys got all of that and had some time to review. It took me a little longer than I like to be able to reconcile the uploading problem. I don't know what's going on with my OneDrive upload and my Google Drive upload, but something shifted and I'm not sure what it was, but I think I reconciled it. I had to reinsert the folder and reconnect the folder and all this kind of stuff, and it still wasn't working, but I believe I have it reconciled now. But these you will get directly you can get the YouTube link and you'll be able to go to YouTube and review these. So these will be up there. When you get to the YouTube channel, please subscribe and like. Okay, that's how we doing this. We're going to subscribe and like to that, especially because of the direction that this course is going in, and other things that will be happening when it comes to the YouTube channel and all that we're going to be immersed into. All right. So let's see how everybody's doing. Is this the after work face? Everybody got their after work face. Nobody wants to show their after work face. So you guys can go ahead and unmute your mics and we will be able to get started. Now, right off the bat, I know some of you who I see are here now were not able to make this past Saturday's meeting of the Masters session. And again, this is why we are we have the Masters Roundtable, so we can discuss the contents, discuss elements that we were not able to discuss because of time constraints. And I am really working to get that session down to a crisp 2 hours. All right. So I'll be pushing really hard to do that, in the coming sessions, because I know people have other things they need to do and everything. So I'm trying to be respectful of everybody's time. I also have a meeting that's always directly after we get off. So I need that little 30-minute space to readjust myself in order to go into that meeting. So just so you guys know, so first of all, welcome everybody that might be watching this on YouTube. We're happy to join YouTube on these things, particular discussions. These are philosophical discussions, spirituality, mainly spiritual science, and we are covering this are exploring spiritual science and under many scientific observations as far as biology, neuroscience, biology, genetics, and so just a host of
I'm
things.
sorry, Baba. Someone's not muting. It's hard to hear you.
Let me see that. I see who that is. So we are exploring under all these scientific headings, and I want to make sure you're going to get the YouTube link when it's done. So there's not a link generated yet until it generates after we're done, and after the YouTube uploads it and processes it, and then it generates a link. Then I can send that link out to everybody. That way it'll be done a lot sooner as well. All right. So yeah, so glad everybody's here. So let's get on with this, because this is as I said, this is one of the most important parts of this course. We're talking about the will. We're talking about our personal will. When it comes to manifesting those things that we intended to manifest, you have to first of all understand what is it that's getting in your way. What's getting in your way? Okay, so when we think about this, then we'd understand why it's so important, first of all, to control your emotions. Why emotions like anger, sadness, worry, and fear, anything like that, these negative resentment, all of this stuff, why that is not a natural response. Why that's not a natural response. So it's at this point that we actually start to see that we start to see the duality. There's a duality to our being. Now, what's in the driver's seat of our being is that which is able to make choices, that which is able to choose, that which is able to observe, and that which is able to discern what this situation needs. Now, here's the thing. That aspect of us needs to have a measurement. It has to have an objective. It needs to have an objective. That objective is either going to be towards the light, so towards divinity, or it's going to be towards discord. All right, now towards discord is going to be an emotional influenced decision. We talk about making that particular choice. It's always that. It's always an emotionally influenced decision. But when it's towards the light, it is a will that's free, and it's a choice that's free of emotional influence. This is the point. This is the one that separates the good from the bad right here. All right. So we talked about, so first, was there anybody that was able to review the replay, the recording? And if anybody have any questions they want to ask, now's the time to do it. Any questions, any concerns, anything that stood out to you, in fact? Even from the course last Saturday, anybody got any of that? Are you still processing? So I noticed that's what I get told a lot. We're always still processing. All right, well, excellent. So here's the thing. We're going to recap a little bit of what we were talking about, because remember, we have a part 2 coming up next Saturday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday. We have a part 2 to that's coming up. All right, so some things that I really, really want you guys to understand is we laid out the Pa'ut Neteru, which is the tree of life, the Kemetic tree of life. We laid that out from top to bottom. Who in here understands what the Pa'ut Neteru is? You understand what the tree of life is? and what it actually depicts. What is it? What is it? Anybody want to give me your understanding of it? And it's okay. I just want to see where you are on it.
Is it a DNA strand?
Is it a DNA strand? Not exactly. It's not exactly a DNA strand, but it's not far from it. But in the way that we use it here in our observance of the tree of life, how are we using it? Go ahead, Brother Rain.
Always delightful to be here with you. I think it's a pathway to through divinity for humans, male or female, by following that pathway and progressing, you can basically raise your consciousness and how you live and interact with the world and the universe at large. It's a pathway to that.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Anybody else have a take on it?
I kind of thought it sort of represented the chakras for some reason.
Okay. Again, not far off at all. The chakras and DNA are definitely involved in this this thing, but they are more so more on the subtle level of the expression of the tree. More so on the subtle level. All right. So one thing that we are to understand. Let me see. Let me share my screen so we can see this. I'm going to show you the sheet that I sent you all. All right. So we see here in the Pautnet Teru here, we have these spheres. Okay, these circles on the Hebraic tree of life, which is the one that's set aside for the Kabbalah. They're called the Sifro. But this is we call these spheres, but these are the actual faculties of man and God. And when we say faculties, we're talking about the different attributes within God and man, okay, the different abilities, the different compartments that house different functions of God and man. That's what the tree depicts. All right, it depicts that. Now, when we get up in this higher realm, first of all, this realm here, Amen, it represents the formless realm from which we come. Okay. So it represents the hidden. Now we've already, at the beginning of the course, we've already gone through the attributes or the qualities that was there in what we call Nun at the time. Okay, which was Nu, now Net, Huhet, Kuket, Amun, Amen, and Amunet. And we talked about what those qualities were, which we're going to have another rundown of that also pretty soon. I like to keep reminding you of that so you can get it and have that fried into your brain so you can understand that. And so what those represent, those are later became known as the Agdoad. And they represented certain qualities there within Nun. And so those qualities still exist here in the Amen part of being. So all of those qualities there. The reason why it's the Amen, because they're all of the hidden and subtle qualities. So Amen encompasses all of them by being the hidden aspect or imperceptible aspect of man and God's being. So that always remains. That is us being seated, as they say, and this is a quote, seated in heaven, okay, but projecting into earth. So this is when they say being in earth, but not of it. All right. So we are of heaven, but in earth. All right. So in the physical presentation, but we are of heaven. So that's what that means. We're projecting into the physical realm. It's a projection. We're projecting into, we have downloaded our consciousness into these avatars that we call bodies, the human bodies. So this is the main thing that I want to make sure that we understand, we get a full understanding of, is that we are consciousness that's downloaded into bodies. And so that's why I went through the process of making sure that we understand what is the true us, the true selves, versus what's not us or the not selves. All right. So it's important to understand that. All right. So consciousness. And then once we get into, now this, man is in the formless or subjective realm. The rest of the tree is in the objective realm. Okay, so this is when we begin to densify, and we are moving through different densities of existence. All right, so we're downloading ourselves all the way down to into the very bottom of that, which is the first density. But in consciousness, although we can project physically down to that first density, but consciously right now we are dwelling in the third density. All right, the third density. That just means that our consciousness has not expanded beyond that particular realm of awareness. All right, so there are some things, and believe it, that it's only the things that we are and are not aware of. And when we're talking about aware of it, we're talking about an experience that becomes an insperience. All right, so that experience then is what has an impression upon your subconscious mind. And then it begins to rewrite a program that becomes a paradigm, which means the hardwiring of how you see the world. All right, so, and I'm stressing that because we should understand that simply reading books and listening to lectures will not expand your consciousness. It will not expand your consciousness. Now, it will equip you, okay, with the right tools to expand your consciousness, depending on who you're listening to. But just listening to lectures and reading books will not expand your consciousness. Your consciousness gets expanded only through experience or experimentation with the information that has been bestowed upon you. All right, that's important to understand. Now, as we traverse down the tree, we've gone through the different cosmological steps that consciousness takes in order to manifest itself fully as a body, which is the sphere on the very bottom of the tree. It's the full and gross presentation of all that came from heaven. So the body becomes the vessel, not just the body, but also the entire earth or the entire universe. All right, so I know a lot of people say that it's the universe that answers us. It's actually the universe that's subservient to us. The universe obeys us. All right, because we are that which governs or commands the universe to manifest. The universe is quite young and it's still growing. It's still coming forth. And it's going to come forth according to how our consciousness collectively commands it to. All right, so this is important to understand. So now, so all of these faculties, first up here, we have the God realm. Okay, so Osar, Jehuti, and Seker. Osar represents the omnipresent faculty or characteristic. And this is about us understanding that we are all one, that we are part of everything and everything is a part of us. All right. And Jehuti is our omniscience characteristic. Omniscient characteristic is about the will. It's about that which is aware of what it's capable of. It becomes aware that it's capable of creating things and willing things and bringing things into manifestation. All right, so that's the divine will. So that's that higher aspect of will that still lies dormant in all of us, because our consciousness has not expanded to that level. Because at this point, that divine will manifests immediately. At every thought and every intention, it manifests immediately without any outside assistance. All right, it is in full command of all of the particles in the known and unknown universe. All right, now Seker is omnipotence, which is the third characteristics in the triune being. All right, and that is the power. This actually guarantees that you have the power to manifest what you had willed in the previous sphere, which is Jehuti. All right. So here in omnipotence, you actually have the power to manifest what you had willed, with anything that you will. So at this point, at this level, that's why they call this the God level. All right, this is the God level. And at this point, there is no flaws. There is only thought and creation. Mankind and possibly other beings on the in the world, not just in the world, but in the entire universe, is still trying to get to this point. There were some closer than others. Now, as you can see again, as was pointed out earlier, I have the colors here, and all of them not on this particular slide. Let's go down to here we go. Let's put all the colors on here. These colors do represent the chakra colors. Okay, these are the chakra colors from the root all the way up to the crown chakra. And then there's a chakra above the crown chakra, which is the Amen chakra. That is beginning, that's the 8th chakra, and it begins the rest of the chakras that we don't even talk about here on earth. Okay, we don't even talk about those chakras. All right, but it's a lot of them. Go ahead, beloved, what you say?
Could you go, before you go further, and I not get my question in, could you go back to the beginning, to the top there?
Mm-hmm.
Could you pull the screen back there?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's where it says man is essentially peaceful by nature.
Yes.
And then it says her natural response is challenge. To challenge is peace.
Thank you for bringing that up. I was hoping somebody recognized that. Because when we're talking about man, we're not talking about any particular sex or gender. We're talking about man as a species, man as the vehicle of God within creation. So we are all man. It's just we have a woman and a man, you know, in gender. But our species is called man.
Right.
Okay. So that's why we say her. That's why we can interchange the gender pronouns, her and him and so forth, when we're talking about man, because we're talking about all of us.
Right.
Okay.
So it's not just the female's natural response to challenge.
Exactly. So when we say man as a her, we're talking about man as a receptive aspect of God's being.
Okay.
Receptive. So because it's the feminine principle is the receptive part of that yin and yang duo.
All right.
Okay. So when we refer to man as being receptive, this is what we're talking about. This is when we refer to mankind as a her. In her feminine self, she's receptive to her peaceful nature.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and when man is in his God self, he is essentially peaceful by nature. Because
Ashe.
we've all been taught like the man is the rough one, the hunter, and all that kind of stuff. But
But remember that what we're talking about now, when we get into gender roles, we have to understand that the roles that we see that we play here as man and woman, um, that
it's just the human.
that's just a human, but also that's like a fourth that probably don't exist once we get to a certain density,
Oh,
maybe even the
okay.
sixth density. There is no separation between what a man and what a woman is.
Okay, okay, I got it.
You see? So
Yeah.
only on this level do we have to separate and have one dominant expression of the feminine energy and one dominant expression of the masculine energy.
Right.
You see, but other than that, because remember, we both have masculine and feminine within each one of us.
Right.
But one has both. But on this is part of the illusion that we are separate
Right.
because those poles now had to split. And now it manifests as man and as woman.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's why, but on this certain density, we're androgynous.
Okay.
All right.
Mhm.
All right. Yes, Asantewa.
Okay. And I've been following you in regards to how you starting from the top and working down. But I'm trying to get my head wrapped around the fact that I have been so accustomed to working from the bottom and go and up,
Sure.
and for that reason, it's not clicking as fast as it should be in my head because it just seemed like it should be the other way around, where we work from the bottom and work up to that level of the God consciousness.
Oh man, I love you so much because that is absolutely right. That's absolutely right. But the way we come into our manifestation is from the top down to the bottom.
Hmm.
And then we work our way back up in consciousness.
Oh, we work our way back up.
Yes. So
Oh,
yeah, we work our way back up.
okay.
Wow, somebody's getting it. All right. So yes, we do work our way back up, but we
Okay.
first come from the heavens. We come from above
Yes.
and manifest our and we download into creation because the bottom represents creation itself, represents earth, represents the world and the universe. And
Okay.
but then we also in consciousness we're moving back up the tree. So you're correct. So in my initiation,
Hmm.
we began at the bottom of the tree,
Okay.
unpacking this. But in the understanding and getting the intellectual understanding of it all, we start from the top because we have to start with the cosmology first. So we start.
Okay.
So we have to know from where we came and how we got here. So that's what this course and this level of course is about.
Hmm.
Okay, is really to explain how we got here and what characteristics we are bringing here with us.
Okay. Well,
Right?
this is my first time seeing it explained like this. Of all the school of thought I've ever gone to, always started with the root chakra and worked our way up.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of me, my mind now adjusting to how you saying we all came into this universe as this whole, perfect, and complete, and then I guess somewhere along the way we lost consciousness and dropped down, and then had to work our way back up to that level.
Well, remember what we came here for. The reason why we manifest the way we have. Okay, and I'm saying we, but remember, it's only one. We're just one consciousness, and the reason for creation itself is to have experience. Okay, it's to have experience. Think for a second. Imagine yourself just in Nun. Remember how we describe Nun to be this watery like abyss when all particles are in this resonant frequency and it's just kind of a latent mist or there's no form,
Mm-hmm.
There is no way to tell up or down because this is infinite and it's eternal, right? There is no measurement of time. There is no light. There is no, it's just no experience. And you have this awareness, this consciousness that is there latent, laying among all of this nothingness. Literally, it's called the nada.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So there's no form or no experience or anything, but then that consciousness starts to understand and starts to want this experience, right? So it starts to figure itself out. Who am I? Because I'm aware of the things that are around me. I'm aware of this watery mist that's around me. What is it? And what can I do with it? And also there's this tingling of some sensation around me. So let me connect with that tingling and let me see what I get. So it infused with that tingling was that spiritual energy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when that spiritual energy fused with that consciousness, then it came into being as Ra. Okay, so Ra is a fusion of consciousness and spirit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but remember, consciousness was separate from spirit there, but it had to fuse with it. It became one with it. And then it realized that there was, through that spirit, it can actually communicate to the particles, to those latent particles that was there, and command them to take whatever form it wanted them to take. So it communicated through spirit to that material, that primordial material. And then things came into form, okay, through vibrations, through words. And this is what we call words, but they're nothing more than tonifications of vibrations. All right, so then it had to be something to break their resonant frequency. The two poles, the yin and the yang, or the masculine and feminine poles, had to be separated. And then this is when things started to come into form.
Okay.
All right. So
So
that's why
one other
the
question.
duality. Go for it.
Okay. Now, those who have reached that higher consciousness of the tri-level up here, they're above the physical realms, and they have already achieved everything that they needed to on earth plane. So they don't have a need to migrate downward. They'll be going upward. Am I correct?
Well, once you get to that God level up there,
Yes.
once you are fully realized being,
Okay.
which is the goal. That's the goal.
The goal.
That's part of our evolution, right?
Yeah.
So once we get there, then we have completed our journey. But it's not to get back to none, but it's now to function as a fully realized divine being. And we can say divine being, God, as nature, as that consciousness, is because it's still unknowable. So we can give it all the names we want to. But if you can think of everything with all power, with the power to do all things and anything, that's what when your consciousness is in that level, in that God level, that's what you are. You are all power. You are all function at that point. There is no restrictions. You're not without anything. You are fully connected, and you permeate through everything in the known and unknown universe. In fact, at that point, no part of the universe will be unknown to you. You understand? And you won't be contained by one planet.
So are they the ascended masters that
The ascended masters are very,
that-
very close to that level. Yes. If they're not
Okay.
fully there, they are very, very close to that level.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Ashe. Brother Nelson.
Yes, good evening, everyone. It's good to see everyone once again.
Good evening.
Excellent segue to our learnings and what we're about to venture into. I just wanted to, I don't know if I believe it was Darlene that stated who talked about gender roles and how a man is supposed to act, how a woman is supposed to act. My understanding is that that's the lower self. That's when the lower self controls individual's aspect. And you look at, and the reason why I say that is because we've all been programmed with this westernized society type of ideology that men are supposed to be a certain way and women are supposed to be a certain way. Whereas our ancestors believed that there was a balance between men and women. And when it came to kingship, that it was the women who held the thrones that were passed down through heredity, and it was the men that had to marry into the kingship, while women inherited the kingship. Women was always placed in high regard. It was always placed in high power positions, as far as government and helping structure the civilization back then. Anyway, make a long story short, I just wanted to, just pipe into that and say, when I look at controlling and managing my lower self to bring myself to a higher consciousness, to get out of that Sahu being, and moving towards the Ab, I don't see gender roles. I see men and women. I see us all as one, and coming to learn that. And I know you said it several times, Saba Amen, but I'm starting to experience that. What I do to someone else, I also do to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So these are some of the concepts that I'm learning to experience, for my own. So this is, like I said, always, this is a great teaching. I'm constantly learning a lot, constantly absorbing, but at the same time, I'm experimenting and I'm trying to see, what, not only what works, but how it works for me, because
Yes.
every day is different and every challenge is different. I just wanted to just chime in with that and say thank you for allowing me to speak.
All right, not a problem at all, beloved. Thank you so much. I appreciate your words and everything. And we one thing we have to realize is part of the reason why we are split into an expression of two separate genders or sexes is because somewhere along the line we didn't function. So we're here to learn to function, co-function, and co-create. All right. So this is a this on this level, through our relationships, especially our most intimate relationships, which is where we have the highest expression or potential and opportunity for the expression of spiritual power through sexual connection. All right. So, and that's a whole nother level. We will get to that. We'll talk about the sexual energy and why that and spiritual energy are pretty much one and the same, and how to actually manifest through that. But this, it's not a vulgar topic at all, but it's the understanding of what that energy is and what's going on at that time. So it's an influence of us to show a high level of connection. Where mankind have gone wrong is that instead of having that high level of connection, it downgraded into attachment. It downgraded into infatuation. And so we actually sacrifice or offer more when it comes to things outside of ourselves. We do more for others that we seem to love and care about and have all this infinity for. That inspires us to go over and beyond what we normally would do for ourselves. The key is to do that anyway. The way we feel about our partners, and let's just say we're in that honeymoon phase when everybody's all in love and there's hearts in their eyes and stars floating around their head. But the way we feel at that point, that's how we should always feel about everybody, everybody on the planet, everybody in the world, everything in the world. We should have that level of infatuation, or really not infatuation, but let's just say level of connection, and that level of appreciation and connectedness to everything and everyone in the world. You know, so how do we, so this is, that itself is what's keeping our consciousness rooted or down and submerged into this third density. All right, so because within that, we are trying to learn to, how do we go beyond that? How do we expand that that level of connection, even without an attachment to somebody else? How do we become connected to everything else? So there is a definite difference between attachment and connection. Attachment is extremely unhealthy. Attachment is emotionally influenced. All right, it's a negative emotional influence. It's because of attachments to things or to people that we incur the most damage to our own selves, mentally and emotionally, and especially spiritually. All right, is extremely damaging. It causes us to have an inability to cope or to deal with loss. And loss is nothing more than the transitory natural path of things and people. They come in and out of our lives. That's the ebb and flow on this meso level of living. It's the ebb and flow. They're here one day and gone the next day. People come through for seasons. You have to stay observant so you can always get as much as you can out of that experience and then move on to another experience. Sometimes they move on because you've outgrown that experience. Not necessarily the person, but the experience. Because even if you and the person both have grown, but the experience of you two being together, you both can outgrow that experience. And that's whether it's friends, whether it's lovers, or what have you. All right. And it doesn't mean that you know, it's not for toxic reasons. It just means that things in each individual's lives would take precedence, you know, and then other interests and other things will come into play because we're still growing. Okay, so that's what that is. But we seem to put a negative connotation on the loss or the moving on of people in and out of our lives. And we think, oh, that person broke up with me, or I had to break up with him or her, and my heart is hurting. I'm going to soak for the next 3 months, maybe 6 months. It all depends on how long this takes me to get over it, and blah, blah, blah. You know, so these are the things that we must understand. This is why that split. So until we collectively start to understand the value of connection and the dangers of attachment, that's what these relationships teach us. Relationships teach us the bulk of our spiritual lessons. It's always about relationships. Even the relationships that we have here in this class, you know, with each other, the relationship that we have with people outside of this group. You know, so we have to understand that these things, there is something that stands in the way of us having the best and highest, most profitable experience. There's something that stands in the way. And that something comes from within each one of us. It's not something out on the outside. Remember, there is no value within the experience itself. It has no value itself. It only attains the value that we give it. Mm-hmm. So we can call it good or bad, but that's us assigning a value to it. All right. So when you do so, then you'll also gambling with your peace. If you're not holding peace as your ultimate measuring tool, are you at peace? And I mean, spiritually, are you at peace? And then if not, figure out why. What are you feeling instead of peace? Observe that. You know, observe it, assess it, so you can get it out of there. You should never want anything blocking your peace. And the only thing that can is your emotional state.
Mm.
It doesn't matter what people do, doesn't matter what happens, any of that. You should always at least be at peace. All right, so this is important to understand. This is why then we come into, let's go back up here, into the center, which is the will. But so recognize our oneness. So our oneness can't happen without understanding the connection between all things. All right, and we talked about our omniscience, the all-knowing, and our ability to will and intend. And in this also linked to our intuition, and then the power that we have to manifest at will. But then we have now law. We understand that through law, this is what we have to know. We have to understand that once we understand the laws that are at work, and how the only thing about this Western education, in all of its glory, I mean, to its highest institutions, they fail to correlate consciousness and its function among the physical world. Everything that they see, everything that they teach us in these sciences, whether it's physics, quantum mechanics, well, not really quantum mechanics, because that's when they begin to crack the code, but physics and chemistry and so forth, they're teaching us this finite way of these things that they move without the influence of consciousness. But then, as we saw in quantum mechanics, once consciousness comes along and influences the expression of these particles, then we see things change. All right, we see things change. So then, even in our highest institutions, they have yet to really understand that, or they refuse to make that a mainstream knowing. So that's something you have to understand and know for yourself. But the laws are literally observed through all fields of science. All fields of science tells us the law, from psychology to astrology to numerology to physiology. You know, all of those levels of science, even when it comes to, what do you call it? Aerodynamics, the science of aerodynamics and so forth. All these, and how energy moves from electronics to electromagnetism and so forth. What we are looking at there is the obedience to law, to written natural law. That's what we're looking at. So when you understand how consciousness plays a part in all of that, then you'd understand that the power lies within you to command those particles that create all this phenomena, and then manifest accordingly. So you know your place and your ability, and you know you are without limitation. That's the point that we want to get to. We're evolving to that understanding. And as we progress to that understanding, then we are also unlocking certain characteristics or gifts within ourselves as we progress to it. Now that also highlights something, that when we look at the fifth sphere here, Herukuti, so we talk about divine protection and so forth. There is a safety mechanism when it comes to consciousness and the ability to fully express our divine gifts. And that's this, that if you will only be allowed access to the gifts according to the level at which you understand the world around you. Tell you what I mean by that. Even though our potential is all power, unlimited, but what if we were all in possession of that already? I mean, in our current conscious states, then you have people who obviously want to bring pain to the world that would have the full ability to do so. And nobody could stop them. All right. So you see, that's why there's a fail-safe. So Herukuti says that everybody's protected. That's one way that it protects us. That these people who think of low vibrational thoughts of hurting or hurt or murderous intentions and ways that they're not connected to everything else, but yet they are here. If they had all power, can you imagine the world of discord that this would be? And this would be very ugly. So this is why it is important that you understand that these gifts is something that you have to earn. You have to earn these gifts. So we have Set, which also was a very powerful individual, yet not as powerful as his brother Osar, which kind of fueled his jealousy of Osar as well. But this is why Osar was placed in possession or in rulership of the kingdom. The kingdom itself is the consciousness. That kingdom is your consciousness. You want your divine understanding, your connection to all, your compassion for all, your zeal and hunger for peace. You want that to be in control, not the ego, which is in service to the lower urges of the body. Right? You don't want that in control. You don't want these emotional urges being able to dictate the quality of your and everybody else's life on the planet, which is kind of what's happening. Okay, that's what's happening. But they're still, they can only do things from a physical standpoint. So that gives everybody else a fighting chance because they can only affect everybody from a physical standpoint. But we are not physical beings. Our physicality is only an aspect of our totality. It's just an aspect. And it's not even the most powerful or most prominent aspect. It is the aspect through which all of our divine and supernatural powers come through. All right, so we have to understand that some of that magic is already working, and I call it magic because just to be funny, but it's really a spiritual abilities. It's already working through you under your, through your involuntary function, without your consent, and also without your level of awareness. We already have some of that going on. We can't argue that we have an indwelling intelligence that governs the life-sustaining processes of the body. There is no doubt. All of us are here as a testament to just that.
Will you say that again? We have an indwelling what?
Indwelling intelligence, all right, that is responsible for the, put it like this, the metabolic life-sustaining processes within the body that operates below your level of awareness and without your voluntary your voluntary assistance, the assimilation of nutrients, you know, the breaking down of food. Really, even breathing, a lot of times it's unconscious and it's involuntary. This is how you can keep breathing even though you're asleep. But then when you focus on the breath and you use it as a tool to root you and to plant you firmly in the present moment, breathing becomes a very powerful activity. So it operates both on the sympathetic and parasympathetic sides of our autonomous nervous system. So we can voluntarily do it, and we do it involuntarily. I think that's pretty cool. Yes, Joel, go for it, brother.
I just got a comment to make. After being in this class and learning that we are basically to bring ourselves back to peace, I thought about the fact that when you drive down the road and somebody runs you off the road or they cut you off, you know, you have a natural tendency to become angry. You know, sometimes you might flip them off, cuss them out, or, you know, might maybe even get into a fight or whatever. But if you think about it, 3 days from that point, you know, 3 months, 3 years or whatever, you don't really think about that incident, or you don't think about it with that same emotional fervor that you had when it happened. So that's what I consider us bring ourselves to a natural state of peace without even voluntarily trying to do that. It's just a natural reaction that our body or that we have towards experiences that may be negative. So I would just basically think about that, saying that, well, if we can do that, say, if we do that naturally, then when things do come up and we become angry, we should always try to, you know, bring ourselves back to peace, you know, consciously. So that's basically the opinion that, I mean, you know, the comment I wanted to make.
Absolutely. Now, you know, in a perfect world, what you say would be so, and we're moving towards that perfect world. The thing about it is that we have conditionings to deal with, right? To contend with. So even somebody cutting us off in traffic oftentimes triggers a conditioning within us that happened when we were not on the road, and it could be from another time. You know, it could be somebody trying to overcome us. You know, trying to outdo us or trying to trying to dominate us. Sometimes I know that's the way I feel. Sometimes when people cut me off, and I always feel like, oh, they're so inconsiderate, and I feel like they're disrespectful. So all these things are welling up inside of me. And then before I know it, I'm cussing at a Prius. Stupid Prius, bleep, bleep, bleep. And then what I had to do was realize that that's not a Prius. That's an expression of unter behind that wheel. And so I have to now rationalize that person is just trying to get to where they're trying to go. Of no consequence to me. They're not trying to offend me. They didn't do anything to me. The way I feel is my own doing. You know, because they too have somewhere to go. And this is not like us a lunch line. Can't nobody cut in front of you. And then if you were more offering, when people get over, then how can somebody cut you off? If you just allow them just to get over, you know? So these are the things that I have to rest. So over and over, and then finally I have this, I'm calmer. in traffic. I'm calmer. Okay. Meaning
So,
it's still a work in progress. Okay.
so you said we have a free will, but we are free from what? Free from our being controlled by our emotions. The Lord,
Yeah. So free will is to act without the influence of emotion. As you'll see in the next class, I'll show you exactly where emotion belongs. Okay, I'll show you exactly where emotion belongs, but this takes a lot of self-control.
Can I,
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say, I should say things as soon as they come up before I forget. But the whole thing for me about something good or bad happening in my experience, I've been working on looking at after I get upset, instead of holding a grudge or being angry or whatever, I look at, in other words, there really is no good or bad. It's what I have been taught in the past, but I never grasped it as much as I am now. There really isn't any good or bad. If that which I consider bad gives me a greater understanding of myself or the situation, then it's all good, whether it appears to be bad or good to me.
Right.
So I forgot where you were talking, where I wanted to interject that, or somebody was talking. But anyway, I just wanted to express that there is no good or bad, only what we name it or what I name it.
Well, the whole thing is to realize it just is.
Yes.
It's just isness.
Yes.
And we polarize it with our consciousness, right? We assign value to it. It just is. So when we realize that if we came here to have experience, and it's simply that, it's all an experience. In fact, it's one experience that's happening. And all of our lives are playing out in one experience. And as we can see how even now our lives are somehow overlapping. You know, we've all come from different parts of our day, and we've converged to this moment. You see, and then we're gonna go and take from this what we learn from each other and take it out into our individual expression in our lives. But you see how these things happen. It's like throwing a bunch of pebbles in the pond. You're gonna get all these rings, and they're gonna overlap with one another. It's just one experience.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Well, the reason that I would call it good is if I learn something from, like a feeling comes up in me that I don't like. If I learn something, why I didn't like that feeling that came up. If I learn something from that, then I can call that good.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
You can call it good because it's progressive towards the evolution of consciousness.
Yeah, it's moving me to a higher.
Yes, it's a progression. And those that impede their progression is called evil, not bad, but evil, or discord, or isfit, as we call it. It's disorder.
Well, sometimes, that feeling will come up and I don't process it like I'm just like telling you, but I wouldn't consider that evil on my part. It's just, I didn't process it to see why I felt that way and why I allowed that feeling to stay with me or whatever,
Well, what I'm saying is, I'm just talking about when there is an act carried out intentionally to impede the process of the evolution of consciousness.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just talking about that. But other than that, everything else is just opportunity to bring back balance.
Right.
So when what we consider to be bad, what we're doing innately is recognizing the imbalance.
Right.
And so we've got to now find out what is it within ourselves that endows us with the ability to bring that balance back. But we also must be careful not to become part of the imbalance in the process.
Right.
All right. So
Right.
there is no retaliation, should be no
Right.
resentment,
Whew.
no vengeance, all those things that makes you be part of the imbalance.
Right.
And Herukuti says that the world, even your transgressor, should be protected from you. Okay, when it comes to that.
You got an echo.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. Let's see. All right, so maybe it'll go away. But so the main point, we have to understand that even those we consider to be our transgressors, man, I mean, I know this hurts, but they have a right not to be punished from us. They have a right not to be punished from us.
Wow.
Now, it could be in our power to bestow punishment upon them, but it's not our right to do so. Now, Herukuti guarantees us that is already taken care of because it's written in law.
Oh, okay.
It's written in law already. So if somebody transgresses against you, there is already an answer for that, because that is somebody who has upset the balance and have impeded. Because even Ma'at says that everything has its place and nothing should be encroached upon by another. All right. So this encroachment is what we're talking about when we talk about transgression. So you have a right just to be and to create within your slither of reality as you please, as long as it does not impede on somebody else's ability to do the same. You see? And somehow, see, this is where it all comes. So now we, on this level of density, we are subjugating others, expecting others to do things that we obligate them to do. And if they don't do those things, then we end up with hurt feelings. Then we judge them and we say all kind of bad stuff about them, in which everybody wants to avoid judgment.
Right.
And let me empower you not to be afraid of judgment. It's always ill-gotten anyway, but seek understanding. And that's really up to each individual to seek his own understanding. Do not take to heart when somebody else fails to understand themselves. And that's all judgment is a lack of understanding. That's all judgment is.
Thank you.
So all you can do then is lower your eyes and lower your head, put your hand over your heart and say and just really pray for understanding for this person. All right. Hold the space for redemption. So when we do this is then how we keep ourselves in a certain position of understanding how we are all part of each other. We're part of everything. If we understood that, we'll do better at taking care of our planet. We'll do better at taking care of even the space around our planet. Take care of our solar system. There's a reason why Uranus, Neptune, Jupiter, that these are big gas giants and uninhabitable planets. There's a reason why it's like that. It's a reason why it's like that. While there's one planet to be in a life zone per solar system that has it. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. right? So we have to understand these things.
Diamond, I want to thank you for this, what we're doing today. I had a strange experience, not a strange, but an experience today that I've been using. People ask me, where you from? You know, when you go somewhere, they say, where you from? And for like over 10 years, I've been saying heaven. I always sometimes just answer people heaven, but I never really know what that meant or how to explain what was going on. I was just saying it just because, you know, just because I was saying it. But today, I've noticed now when I say that to people, they stop and think for a minute. And I just want to thank you for bringing this, because I didn't have an understanding how we come from the top down until this year, you know,
Yeah.
really getting in your class. So I thank you for, you know, for this, because I'm learning now how I can explain that. I don't try to explain it to others yet, because I don't really understand.
Understood.
So
Well,
I
it'll sink in, and I implore all of you to, you know, to literally go and meditate. And when I say meditate on this information, take some time to yourself in a quiet space and reflect, and allow your mind to wander, allow inquiries to enter into your mind, you know, about the information, allow the connections to be formed within the information, and to see if you can apply or overlay the information into instances in your own lives. Take some time to do that, because out of that, the wisdom of the information is born. So that's how it happens. That's what I have done for years. I had got to the point to where stop saying, you know what, that don't make any sense to me, and just dismissing things. And I got to the point to where I contemplated them. And then whatever still failed to make sense, I just said, well, maybe I'm just not there yet. And it's okay. I'm okay with not being there yet. That just means there's a prerequisite to getting there. There's so many other things to be had on my way to getting to that level of understanding. So I always stay very curious. Stay open to information. Investigate it. You know, so hopefully that makes sense. And so now we are coming to our center in the heart of the tree, Heru, that lets you know that man has been endowed with free will, and which is the freedom to choose his destiny, but it depends on compliance with the 11 laws. So each one of these spheres has a law associated with it, a law or an affirmation associated with it. All right. And so we're going to go through these laws. Right now, what we're looking is the pretty much a simplification of what the law is what we're to get from each law, you know, with the what I have up here. But we're going to actually go over the laws, which I've already sent to all of you. You have the laws, so read them. And the law of Heru actually it tells us that man has been endowed with free will. So we've been endowed with it, endowed with free will. That means it resides in us. We have the ability to express it, but it a lot of times gets suppressed because we choose to express the contents of our emotions instead of keeping our spirit clear of them to express our true intentions. Right? So these are the things that lead us to doing things that we didn't really mean to do. You know how when you're getting into an argument out of anger, and then you end up saying things you really didn't want to say, that you shouldn't have said. You do things that you regret, things that you have to apologize for or ask for forgiveness for. You know, and it happens on both halves. But what is that actually seeks this forgiveness? What is this that feels that regret? You see, that's the true self, understanding that it had just played a major part in the imbalance in that situation. And now it seeks to correct that imbalance. That's what that is. So why not just stay in balance all the time?
What if you don't feel like you, just because you might have said something to hurt someone's feelings, what if you don't feel like what you said was really bad? Maybe, I don't know.
Were you saying like, even though what you said was correct, but the only thing that you regret is hurting their feelings?
Yeah, but
Okay. But that's still lack of compassion in the way that you are presenting your point. And which means that you still, even though you may have said something that was correct, but the way you did it, you still fell into emotional discord.
okay, got it.
Because when you're operating from free will, you'll keep considering the feelings of the other person.
Right.
You'll seek to inspire them, not hurt them.
Oh, yeah. What if you've been trying?
No.
I was gonna say, what if you're constantly seeking to inspire someone, but it's just like, next thing you know, they're almost hitting you upside the head.
Well, the thing about it is, when you inspire people, it should be effortless, okay? Because other than that, you're trying to people please, and that's a whole nother level of imbalance.
Okay.
Okay, so it should just be you living through your example of what you know of yourself. This is why self-knowledge is key. It rules all. Understanding self, seek self, understand self. And once you do that, just apply that and move and operate accordingly. And then let people be inspired by that. But you should never ever seek and trying to force inspiration on somebody, because that has the opposite effect.
Right.
All right. Yes, Brother Nelson.
So is that like, in a sense, based upon what Darlene was expressing, is to always find a redemption, always find redemption to those who do us wrong, instead of, in order to maintain that peace within us. Is that what I'm getting?
So we hold space for redemption. So we have to hold space and allow them to redeem themselves. So this is where I always imagine, and this is something that a lot of people, especially once leaving Christianity, one of the first things they want to throw out is turn the other cheek. They want to throw that part out of there. But let me explain what this is. So when we're talking about turning the other cheek, it is not when somebody transgress against you, when they smite you on one cheek, and then you automatically turn and let them smite the other one. That's not what that means. That parable talks about when somebody transgressed against you, and then once they have proven themselves trustworthy, again, after redeeming themselves, then you trust them with the other cheek, because they have proved themselves to whatever caused them to smite your cheek and before, they have transcended that character. And now they are no longer there. And so we have to stay aware. So for all of these people that are still holding people to their past, just because I saw Brother Nelson robbing a convenience store back in 1982, that doesn't mean that he couldn't be the divine man that he is today. I have to accept him for who he is today, not for who he was in 1982. You see, I have to let that part of him go and accept his evolution. So this is all about accepting our evolutions, because when we redeem ourselves, redemption, that's how we come back from discord. Look, that's like throwing somebody a ladder. Once they fall down that hole of discord, you throw them a ladder and say, you can climb back up it if you'd like. And when they climb back up it, that's them saying, I regret doing that. And as I'm going up here, I'm going to leave whatever reason, that was within me that caused me to do that, I'm going to leave that down in this hole, but I'm coming out. And when they come out, offer them your other cheek, and they should not smite it. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, it does. It does. It does make sense. Thank you.
All right. So that's just part of how we hold space for one another. And this is how we help each other grow as well. Okay. That's how we help each other grow. And just being out of the emotional discord, answering only the call of the light within your heart, which is why Heru is at the center of the tree. And it is aligned with the heart chakra. It is about compassion. Now, the reason why it's the gateway to divine consciousness is because we have to open up. So this is the gateway to love. Love is literally considering all. It always considers the whole. It considers the balance, the order, the reciprocity, the propriety, the harmony between all things and everybody. That's what love does. It's not, we can't take love down to a infatuation that we feel about somebody. That's not love. That's simply infatuation. But we can choose to express love within our relationships. But that means to give and expect nothing in return, and let the other person do the same. But we don't do that. I hear so many people always complain about, oh, I'm always doing this and doing that, and they don't even return the favor. Well, that's not love. You're self-seeking. Do it just for the fact of loving. And let that be your goal, just the fact that you did it. Can you ever get to that point? All right, so we only have about 8 more minutes. Then we'll close this down. So let me stop this screen share. All right, so anybody have anything in addition they want to comment on or inquire?
Well, I just wanted to chime in. You was talking about love and what the Kemetic definition of love is. I just got done reading Ra'an Nefer Ahmed's book, An Afrocentric Guide to a Spiritual Union.
Beautiful book. Love that.
Beautiful book. And he talked about just exactly what you were saying, how the expression of love should be selfless. And he talked about, it's interesting because he talked about when you're at the club and you see that woman across the way and your heart flutters and your temperature goes up and you feel all these internal feelings. He said, that's a natural response. He said, but that's not love. That does not equate to a union between you and that person. He said, that's a misnomer. He said, so I'm kind of glad you brought that up. That was very interesting because it kind of confirmed and confirmed the readings that I just did with this book. So thank you.
What's the name of the book?
It's called An Afrocentric Guide to a Spiritual Union.
I recommend everybody get that book.
Dynamite. It's an awesome book. Awesome book.
Yes. And that is to say also, looking at the other side of it, true love is, I love this because Simsut told me to stop saying sacrifice, which is what we're taught in Osara said. We say sacrifice, but she say offering. So I love that because I resonate with offering better. So when we offer the offering that we give to others out of love, the best offering is a rendition or reformation of our true selves. In other words, finding out what is it within us that is prohibiting us from having the most and the best experience with each other. What is it within me? And then if I was to start to fight myself on that, like, oh, well, I don't like when she does this, but I'm going to fight that. Because so within myself, I'm going to say, but I'm okay with that. I'm at peace with her doing that. I'm at peace with her hotcakes that she cooked, that she claimed is good. But I don't know what kind of fish grease she put in it. And I'm not really talking about you, Amika. I'm just saying in general. Okay. But I'm saying, but somehow in that, because she offered her best, no matter what.
Right.
But somehow I've got to be at peace with that, you know, and any kind of tendency in myself to get over emotional in the slightest way, whether bringing emotion reaction home from the job to the house. You have to love someone enough not to do that. You have to love your situation. You have to love and care enough about your experience not to do that. Because whatever the condition of your relationship is, it's on you. It's about what you're putting into it or the lack thereof.
Well, I've always thought too that if someone is doing something that's irritating me, then there must be something about that in me that I need to look at. That's sort of like what I look at, because it's an opportunity. Why is that upsetting me so? You know, is
That's
what I'm
right.
saying.
Yeah, that's a trigger. And all triggers are attached to emotional conditionings. That means that was put there, and there's something that was there that you never went back to address.
Right.
You just accepted it as a part of yourself, which means you've identified with it.
Right.
But it becomes a thorn, and it limits your ability to really, really enjoy that experience. Let all of that go. I'm serious when I tell you that our potential is to move on the scale between peace and enjoyment, not pain and pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
We're to transcend pain and pleasure. Transcend that and move from peace to enjoyment. That's when this world opens up to you. That's when your consciousness expands to the upper realm, the upper part of this tree, and you can express your full divinity. And when you are doing that, then you would understand the true purpose of creation.
You said transcend pain and pleasure and move to where?
Into peace and enjoyment.
Okay.
Right. Now, anybody else have any questions or comments they like to make? All right, so we're right at 2 minutes till. And again, I appreciate everyone. I hope you're more clear on what free will is. It's acting without the influence of emotion, but it's with the goal of enjoyment. Okay, that's what the goal of your acting should be, of enjoyment. But remember, that itself that's an emotion that comes after the act of willing. When emotions are put in front of the action, when it precedes the action, then the action is going to be an influence of the emotion that preceded it. So that means you got to take your space. You got to put space in between how you feel and what you decide to actually do. You got to put some space. So take a moment to observe how you feel and act in a balanced way, regardless of how you feel. You've got to be devoted and committed to acting in balance. That's important. And that's in all situations. All right. Well, thank all of you
Thank you.
for coming. I appreciate you so much. I'm really looking forward to our next session of Meeting of the Masters. And hopefully we can help people on YouTube now with these master roundtables. And just thank you all for showing up tonight. This is it really warms my heart up. I really appreciate it. All right, so without any further ado, and all of you, if you haven't gotten a chance to review the recording, review it, and bring any questions or concerns or comments to our next session. All right. Let's see here. All right, well, Hetepu, and we'll see you all soon. Ashe.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you.